Northwest Nova here. Was going through a crate full of headlight bezels and related parts and thought we'd do a quick video on identification of the 1962 through 67 Chevy II Nova headlight bezels. Help IDing them, what year they go to. As you probably know, stuff is often mislisted on eBay, Craigslist, and so forth. So thought I'd run through it real quick so you know what you're working with. First bezel is 1962 through 64. These were stamped aluminum and they were clear anodized. They were not chromed. People often think they're chromed. They can be chromed, but the factory did not chrome them. Good used aren't terribly hard to find. This one is abnormally nice. They are reproduced. There are two manufacturers of them. OER is the one that has had fitment problems with it, mounting flush with the fender and so forth. Ted Williams is the other one. Ted Williams is the one we sell. Have never had any problems with it. It's a nice bezel. It's much more expensive, but you get what you pay for. So again, that's 1962 through 64. Moving on, we have 1965. In 65, you had the first major front-end revision on the Nova, and they went to a ring. These are also stamped aluminum, and they were also clear anodized out of the factory. They were not chromed. These are often in bad shape used, and can be difficult to find used since they were only on the car for 1 year. These are reproduced. They've been on the market for a while now. They are also made by Ted Williams. It's a decent reproduction. Never had any problems with it. Next one is the 1966 bezel. Once again, it's stamped aluminum and was anodized out of the factory. It's a bit of a flimsy design. They don't weigh very much. They're known to get damaged and beat up. Clean used can be hard to find. They love to get dented here at the top, at the point of the fender. Like any of these aluminum bezels, they can be restored, but it's often not worth the money to have it done, and getting clear anodizing properly done is becoming difficult. These two are also reproduced. They're made by Trim Parts, American made. There were problems in the past with it, is my understanding, but the tooling has been corrected. I believe there may also be an overseas version that you would put on your average driver. NOS are still floating out there. They were available from GM into the 90s, if I recall correctly, but they can be quite pricey at this point. Moving on, we have 1967. 67 was the first year of the metal die-cast one. It's a heavy-duty piece. These were chrome, and they were painted flat black or chassis black, whatever you want to call it, in the ribs. Being chrome die cast, they are prone to pit, sometimes badly. This is pretty average for Pacific Northwest, something that's been sitting outside. These can be restored. They can be re-chromed like a bumper, but it's a lot of work. It can be very expensive. These are known to crack on the edges, and so oftentimes used aren't worth the effort to fix, again being die cast. These are reproduced. OER, I believe, is the manufacturer. They may be reboxing it. NOS are pretty plentiful. These were available from GM into, I believe, the early 2000s. There's still quite a few of them out there. So don't pay ridiculous money for NOS pairs because they're not terribly uncommon. Now, in regards to what these are and what they do, they're the bezel that goes over the headlight bucket. This is a 62 to 64 Nova headlight bucket. We'll make a separate video IDing these because they varied with the years as well. They are not all interchangeable as commonly thought. So you have the stainless steel ring that holds the bulb in, that retains it. And then the bezel goes over like that. So that's how it mounts to your fender. Again, this design varies between 1962 and 1967, but the general concept is the same. Some of the hardware interchanges. The ring is the same into the early 70s. The rings are reproduced. They're inexpensive. They also fit other cars and good used are quite plentiful. Now a final note on hardware. These bezels are retained by small chrome screws. Factory size was actually 1/2 inch. It's a rather small screw. Then 62 to 65 was retained with a plastic nut, nylon nut, similar to these. These are the reproduction. They're not perfect, but they work. Originals were a bit thicker. We have these in our little store. Then starting in 66, GM went to a different style. Correct reproductions of these are not available that we have ever seen. Everything advertised on the market is wrong. These are much thicker than what's out there. You'll see they're square. They're also square mounting. You can use this style in place on 66 and 67, but you have to be careful when you're tightening, especially in 66, because you can warp the bezel. 67 uses something even different from this, but thought we'd show an example because people rarely see now the original ones because they're often broken and missing. But these are original GM pieces. So there we go, quick overview on the 62 to 67 Chevy II headlight bezels. Thank you.